Good morning. We are going to go over propane tanks for your food truck, trailer, or just normal shit. We're going to go into the more specifics, which you wouldn't have known. Is there's something called vaporization rates, which you need to learn about. I have not certified yet in gas. I actually was taking a class back in the day. I did not finish it yet. I need to do that. It's an online course, whatever. But fun fact I learned in the industry, because I even talked to some guys who run a propane company here in Orlando, is there's something called vaporization rate, which is how quickly you can burn this fuel. So in the case of you, if you're running a food truck, let's just do some basics. Let's just do with a commercial griddle. I'm just showing this for your sake. But let's go with we're going to switch from a 48 down to a 24 really quick. But let's say you're on the smaller side for a 24-inch gas griddle. You're at, griddle is 70k BTUs. Deep fryer is going to be 90k, I already know off the top of my head. 40-pound deep fryer is going to be 90k BTUs. Obviously, there's the 85s, there's the 100, there's bigger, but just 90k is the average. People typically want to get the 40-pounder, mainly because it's the best price. And what the fuck? Well, no, this is mainstream because this is shipping's not included yet. So after you add 200, 300 bucks for shipping, you're still more expensive than this. And then slightly different brand, even though by the same company. That's a separate topic. And then let's go to a final thing. So most people have more than this. A lot of larger food trucks will have 2 deep fryers, a 24-inch griddle, 2-burner hot plate, and sometimes even a char broiler. But let's just add a 2-burner on top of this. And this is where you guys will get screwed in the future. 2-burner hot plate at 44, that's whatever, just 44.50. 2-burner hot plate at 50k BTUs. And then a smaller one is that almost every single food truck will come with a gas water heater. That's the only other thing that would take. Let me just show you. Kinfolk's gas water heater. Don't buy the brands. Well, I have other videos for which one you want to buy. Well, I will have them. That doesn't matter too much right now. So let's go over to here, and then you're gonna just want to switch from this over to RV van. And most people want to go with a tankless, and then because you're in price, you all typically. Now let me go to those. That's easier this way, because they'll end up showing exactly. Tankless. There you go. This one's probably what most of you guys would go with, because your main thing is cheap, cheap, cheap. That's like everyone's motto in the world. So, tankless, water heater, 60k BTU. Now, realistically, you're not going to run all 4 of these at the same exact time. So, influx. The tankless water heater, I'm only going to put realistically, griddle will be at 70% burn. Well, the griddle's the most used, so you might even have it at full burn. But we're just taking averages. So, 70 times 0.7, 49k BTU average. The deep fryer, people want to run 350 instead of the full 400, same thing. So 90 times 0.7, 63k BTU average. 2-burner hot plate, pretty much, let's assume you have 1 burner on, 2-burner hot, 25k average. And then the water heater, you rarely use it, so you'll have a large influx, but it doesn't really matter, so we'll just put it at 5k BTU. Because it's going to help you know how big of a tank you need on top of the vaporization rate we're going to get to. Because what happens then, when you have too small of a propane tank, and let's just get to it really quick. So we want to look at propane tank. So we have 100 pounders. Skip those are for forklifts, and then 30s, 40s, and then everyone knows about the 20s. Well, I'm just gonna say exactly what it is. The propane can only turn into a gas so quickly that your equipment might need more gas than it can make for you at any given moment in time. Now, there's two main factors that make it different. Is one is a 100-pound propane tank versus a 20-pound. A 20-pound can produce significantly less BTUs per hour than a 100-pound. And then the second one, which is what this page is over here for, is it's really hard to find the 20 pounds. I need to make my own website. Well, I have a website, but I need to make my own web page just for this. But this is just showing a 100-pound propane tank. So if you have a 100-pound propane tank at full capacity, and this is a minor thing that most of you guys wouldn't give a fuck about, is that you see this, when it says 100 pounds, it means when you fill it up, whatever the way the propane tank is. So 70 pounds is let's just say that's the exact weight of it. It might be a little bit higher because packaging. But at the end of the day, this thing weighs 70 pounds, empty. You add 100 pounds of propane to it, so if your propane tank is full, it weighs 170 pounds. Now, it's a technical lie, but it's a safety because you don't want a propane tank blowing up on you or just overpressurizing. Is that means that's the 100 pounds of capacity that's usable. Propane tanks are typically filled only between, it's closer to 80%, but between 70 and 80% to true full capacity. So if you were to fill this up to the theoretical maximum, you could theoretically put 125 pounds of liquid propane into this propane tank. Only thing is, if the propane tank starts to heat up, it's going to blow up. There's a pressure release valve, so that technically that won't happen. But what would actually happen in your case is that if the safety valve works correctly, what will happen is that, yes, you filled it up to truly 100% capacity, 125 pounds. But because the temperature around you is going to get warmer or changes, it's just going to vent it off because there's going to be too much pressure in the tank. So you're going to pay for 25 pounds, and it's literally just going to be vented into the atmosphere, and you just wasted your money. On top of that, if you put a flame next to it while it's venting, now you have a fucking fire shooting out of your propane tank. So 100 pounds is not the theoretical, but 100 pounds is how much propane and weight can fit into your tank safely. So now you got that over. Because other places, it kind of like differs where they say 100 pounds. Well, what does 100 pounds mean? Does it mean that when you fill it up all the way, should the tank weigh 100 pounds? No, the tank weighs 70 pounds, plus you put 100 pounds of propane in it. And when it says 100 pounds, I forgot, but there's something else, some other stupid industry standard, where when it says 100 pounds, that, not for propane, but I can't remember, it was so long ago. But when it says whatever the number it is, that is the theoretical maximum, but regulation would never let you go to that point. So, I think it's with electrical. So, like electrical said, theoretically, a 20 amp circuit could do 2400 watts, but you only want to operate at 75% of that, so you can only do 18, I'm talking about a 15 amp, 15 amp? Yeah, 15 amp circuit. Wait, let me just do the number really quick. 15 times 120. So yeah, 15 amp circuit, the normal circuits you have around your house that aren't the powerful ones, they say you can only safely do up to 1800, but that's actually at 75% usage. So if you times that 1.25, well, like 1800 divided by 75 times 100, 2400, because the ways you do math, it actually changes the number a little bit. This is actually the true theoretical that your outlet can use, but for safety, because you don't want to overload your outlet, or what it says, like you can use that for a certain extent of time, you'll eventually overload your outlet and fucking burn down your house, your electrical wires. In addition to that, this is based off a normal house run of 100 feet. So say you took that same exact outlet with the cable behind, even though you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. If you were to extend that and make that 2 miles long, you can't fucking do even 1800 watts. You probably can barely power a light bulb. Anything more than that will burn out your wire. So these are industry standards, but there's so many caveats to it. This is just for normal day usage for stuff like this. So let's get back to the actual topic. So for standard, you're going to want to go with the 100 pound propane tank. Why would you want that? Well, we're going to do it with the numbers over here. And I'm going to prove it to you, hopefully, theoretically. Who knows? Because I never ran a food truck in my life, but I've helped build some, and I work for a company, and I have a griddle and a deep fryer and a 36-inch charbroiler in my back patio right now. So these are the theoretical. If you would have everything running at 100%, that pretty much never happens. So we're going to take closer to the average, 49 plus 63 plus 25 plus 5. So at any given moment in time on your food truck, you should expect, if you had this type of setup, which is a very basic one, you need at least 142,000 BTUs per hour capacity. Now, let's go right over here. This is just a chart because someone did the numbers and came up with, if you're using a 100-pound propane tank, what can you get away with? So here in Florida, it never gets below freezing, at least here in Orlando. It pretty much never gets below freezing, and it's very limited time of the year, and I don't think people go to food trucks during the time anyway. But for most of us, most of the year, you're between at least, let's say 70 degrees, okay? Because obviously if you're in the dead of winter up north, then you're actually going to need either multiple propane tanks, so upwards of 4 propane tanks, all in the same system, all connected at once, or you're going to need to buy, let me show you, propane tank heater. This kind of stuff you see here. So you're gonna have to plug this in to warm up your propane so it could actually work for shit. And this is gonna show you why. So we are at 142 average. So if you were someone, you went out here and you bought this right here, this 100-pound propane tank for 180 bucks, you only need 142 at any given time. Here in Florida, so it's 70. We're sticking with 70 degrees. If it's winter, you got to get a heater blanket, or you have multiple tanks. So if the tank is at full capacity, you just load it up, you're good to go. Even if your tank is half empty. So what this chart is saying is, if you have a 100-pound propane tank, and this tank is full, or this thing is at 90%, 80%, all the way down to 10%. If you are at 40%, so your tank is about half empty, and you only have one propane tank in your system, you can just barely make this average if you're using these units about this much. So you're not running full capacity on all this stuff. And then once your propane tank starts to get towards the empty part, and say you're towards the end of the day, your propane tank's starting to get empty, you only got the one, and you got a bunch of customers, you got to turn on that griddle and that deep fryer all the way and start cooking. Well, you're gonna get fucked. That's somewhat, because you're gonna be like, my equipment's not warming up quick enough, the food's not cooking properly, what the fuck is going on? Well, that's because you're running out of propane, and you do not have enough propane to supply your equipment. So, what most food truck companies do, is you see this. So you have 2 propane tanks. You might have valves on these, so one might be open, one might be closed at any given time. But if you take 2 propane tanks, so now you got this over here. You got both of these open at the same time in the same line, which is not an issue as long as you got the regulators to prevent knockback, I think. Don't quote me on this. I'm not certified yet. I've heard a lot of stuff over the last 3 years I've been doing this. But yeah, you have 2 propane tanks. Both of these are open at the same exact time, going to the same place. Then you could take all these numbers and double it. So fine, let's say both tanks are open, and you are at 30%. Well, with 2 tanks, you actually have to double this number. So instead of being 118,000, you're able to supply 236,000. So at that point, let's go all the way down to 10%. At that point, if you double it, you're at 132, which is just slightly under this, so it's probably not noticeable. So you, with your average ass food truck, should probably have 2 100 propane tanks open at the same exact time, and no matter what happens during your day, as long as you're around the 70 degrees, you're not in fucking winter, you are good to go. You will not have any problems with the propane tanks until they empty out. And then let's just do the scenario. So say you were at fucking cold ass 0 degrees. 0 degrees. No. I don't think anyone would drive a food truck at 0 degrees. So let's say 40 degrees. At 40 degrees, you're towards the end of the day, or you just haven't refilled the propane tank yet. If you had 2 tanks in tandem, you'd only have 100,000, so you would be significantly less than what you need. So you would have an option where you could actually, I don't know if I could find a picture of it, but there's some cases in which you wouldn't have this door here, and then you would actually, some food trucks have 4 tanks, all hooked up at once. You could do that, Or the second thing is you can buy a heater unit for your tanks to heat them up. Because this is saying, hey, what's the temperature of the outside right here? So if you have a heater, then you can assume that you're always going to be at this temperature, regardless of 70 degrees, regardless of what's actually happening outside. It could be fucking negative 10 out. Well, at that point, I think there might be an effect. So you need to understand that. So that's why we're going to go down these routes where if you go to cheaper companies, so you're someone who's price sensitive, you're trying to get a food truck, you obviously are taking out loans, you maybe only have 5,000 to 10,000 cash, or you might be literally doing the whole thing on loan borrowed from people, you're going to end up going to a food truck company and they're going to give you a tandem set of two 20-pounders, or they'll give you two 30-pounders or 40-pounders. And this is where I was saying earlier at the beginning of the video, this doesn't do justice because almost everyone deals with 100-pound propane tanks, so there are charts somewhere out there. I had a little booklet, I don't know where the fuck I put it, but it actually said more specifics down to 20 pound. It gave, I think it did 20s and 100s, but for the most part, if you were to just, I think it's slightly more than what it says here, or slightly less, I can't remember, but it's approximately right. So if you took this chart, even though it's not perfect, and you were to say, oh, I actually ended up buying this 20-pound propane tank, or what most people have for their grills at home, this is your actual vaporization rates. So you got a 20-pound propane tank at 92,000 BTUs during normal temperature. The first thing you gotta realize is that one, you're gonna be fucking running out of propane every other fucking, probably even more than once a day if you're doing any type of real work. Because what? That's 92,000 BTUs. So theoretically, you could run. Oh wait, no, sorry. A 20-pound propane tank max BTU. It has 430,000 BTUs. So you could run at full capacity one 90,000 BTU deep fryer for 4.5 hours. So you'd probably want to upgrade to a much bigger tank, at least a 40-pounder. And this is what I've heard and seen around the industry, because we have hundreds of food trucks here in Orlando, is that you'll see a split between 100-pounders, which is the grand majority. 80 to 90% of all food trucks out there have 100-pounders. And then you'll see some people who use 40-pounders. 40-pounders are all right, at least for our temperature, so 141,000. You have two of them in tandem, that's 280,000. That's double what you need for a standard food truck. Obviously, if you're one of those people who are able to afford those, there's people I've seen order 26, 30, 36 foot, anything above 26 feet for a food truck is typically by a big fucking corporation where they have money to fucking waste, or it's someone who's running a smoker food truck. But most of you guys would be somewhere between 12 and 16 foot food truck, which is the typical. So you could never actually put much more equipment. So you could have you could probably have 2 to 3 extra pieces of equipment than what's on here. So you would double your amount closer to 280,000. So at that point, under that theoretical, because this is on the lower end, let's say this is your second food truck, or you got some real money. You want to upgrade to a 4-burner at 100K. You're going to have 2 40-pound deep fryers, and then you're also going to add in, it doesn't matter whether it's a charbroiler or a griddle, you're just going to have some combination of 24 charbroiler or 2 giant griddles or 2 charbroilers somehow. And then a charbroiler, 36-inch charbroiler, if I remember correctly, most of them are around 100 to 120,000. Let's see what this one wants to say. Okay, so this one's 90, so let's go with 90. BTU. Well, we're going to add another 63K for that. 63K for charbroiler, and then the 4-burner will upgrade to 50. So at this point, we would be at 49 plus 63 plus 63 plus 63 plus 50 plus 5. So 293 could be the average, be lower or higher depending on what you need, because at full theoretical it would be 270, 340, 350, and then the water heater is never on 24/7. So about 350. But let's say a little bit on the lower end, you have ups and downs throughout the day. So at 293, you would actually need one of these 100-pound propane tanks. Not these smaller fuckers. One big motherfucker at full capacity to handle your system. So that's why you would want to have 2 of them. So even when you get towards the end of the day, you can find a way to make it work. Once you get below 30%, so that's 293. End of the day, you got two tanks at 30% capacity. You only got 236. It's a little iffy at that point. So if you are doing the larger food trucks, you might even consider doing a third tank. But these are small things that companies will never tell you about when you're buying your food truck. Because honestly, I don't even think they really know for the most part. Because, yeah, who fucking cares? Just make some money, give people some shitty half-made products, and go from there. Now, most companies just came to the realization to do two 100-pound propane tanks. But once it gets bigger than that, I've seen a lot of food trucks where people start doing 18, 20-footers. Typically, they still just stick with the the two propane tanks, and at full capacity or close to it, it'll work. But as you get closer towards the end of the day, you're gonna have issues, and you're really not gonna know why. You're just like, oh, I guess it's just it's an off day, but it's actually due to the construction. So now let's actually get to what propane tank do you need. Fuck, this video is 21 minutes long. Okay, propane tank. Now you know why and what propane tank you need to get. What is the best value for you? I'm not going to tell you. Don't even touch a 20-pounder, and you're going to stick to either 40s or 100s. If you are someone who's building your own food truck and you are fucking like doing this on the cheap, you're probably going to want to start out with either, it's up to you. I would say the better option would be just go with one 100-pound propane tank, or you could go with two 40-pounders. But price-wise, you would probably want to go with the 100-pounder. And then you're going to have two variations of the 100-pound propane tank. And you're going to be like, which one do I want? Well, the best option is whichever one's cheaper, right off the bat. But the second thing is the difference between a multi-valve. So you see up here in the section where you have these multiple things. So right here on the right-hand side, you have your valve to open and close. Then you have your out valve. That's to open and close right there. And then, wait, no, that's the cap you take off to fill it. And then over here is your regular POL that you know and love for your personal grill at your house. Well, the main difference between these is that say you're backing up your food truck to a U-Haul location, a Costco location, somewhere to refill your propane. If their hose is long enough and they're willing to do it, a multi-valve, you just take off this little yellow cap on the top, if they have the capabilities, and they will refill your propane tank on your truck or trailer. You don't even have to take it off. In the case of most of you guys, which is you're going to have, it doesn't matter which one you go with, you're going to have to physically take it off your truck and take it to them so they can fill it up at the station. Their little whatever. You'll know the first time you go. But this tank is nicer because it has an option where if they have a long enough hose, you don't have to take it off, you don't have to do anything. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to go with this guy. Now, this one's cheaper right now. So, fucking go with this. Okay? The only difference between them is literally just the multi-valve versus the regular POL valve. Now, say it was a POL valve, and they were still able to have the hose long enough to get to your truck. You're going to learn this from experience really quickly, is you're going to have the connector that goes onto here. The thing is, they can still fill it up physically while it's on the truck. They just need to take the hose off for your outlet on here and then hook it up from there. With this one, you can leave the existing hose on there and they fill through a completely separate port. With this one, typically it'll be cheaper for you. So let's go over to regular ass website here. So typically you would see something like this. Well, that's a little bit cheap. I don't know if I can believe that yet. Yeah, I see $70 for shipping. You know, you're getting somewhere. Okay, no, it's just fucking came down in price. I used to pay upwards of $250 for these tanks. So you know what? You're going to go with this 100-pound multi-valve propane tank because it's the same fucking price and it's free. And then obviously you can buy from here on Amazon and it says you'll get it March 4th. Well, that's still 2 weeks away. But until very recently, it was typically more like this. Get the regular, cheaper one for $190, and then you can get the more expensive one for around $230 to $250. It really depends on the month. So, At the end of the day, if this one, if you can afford it, even though I doubt you would have the ability to have someone come fill it up on site and have each there, I would say get this one because it's only 30, 40 extra bucks, and yeah. And then obviously when you move on to your second trailer, because my assumption is anyone does food trucks and you're successful, you're gonna do this for the next 20 years, so you're gonna end up getting a second or a third trailer as the first one starts to break down, or you just want to move into something different. So at least try this out first if you can afford it. If not, go with whichever one is cheaper at the time you are buying. You can go with the 40-pound propane tank. That is for someone who you really need to penny pinch, save 60, 70 bucks. Not necessary. And then what you guys can end up doing, so if you're going to a food truck company for a food truck builder or something, let's do this guy, Elijah, at least here in my local area, Trailer King Builders, another good one, Concession Nation, and JR Custom, if that's the right one. There's two of them named JR Custom. I think pretty much all these guys do exclusively 100 pounds now. Good pictures. This one doesn't even show. Oh, there's you can tell that's a 100 pound right there. Let's go to this guy, 100 pound right there. Hey, that's it. Okay, I'm not dealing with that. Okay, and then we're gonna go over to. Wasn't the one that I wanted to go to? Damn. Trailer King Builder. Okay. Oh, you sons of bitches. Windows are Control V. Okay. Anyways, let's go back into here. Let's. Did they hack my computer? I doubt it. That's actually not that price. Well, that's a little expensive side. That's fine. Let's go over to the next one. Trailer King Builders. Oh yeah, if you ever want to stock a food truck company, just go to their Insta. That's usually their best place. It's already auto-logged, but that's fine, I guess. £100 typically. I've rarely seen 40-pounders, but I've seen it when you are someone. I see these people on Reddit all the time, or just asking questions in the forums on places. They're like, "Can I get a food truck from Alibaba?" Well, 95% of the time, if you get a food truck from there for typical people, you're gonna get something that's completely against regulations. Gonna need several $1,000s in upgrades. Probably some. I've heard worst case where it's like 10 or 20,000. So they end up spending the same amount of money for imported Chinese food truck or trailer. Unless you're doing something like a fucking coffee shop. If the point is, if you're doing any real cooking equipment, don't fucking touch those trailers. If you were going to be doing something like a coffee shop, you could probably get away with it, just because all you need is realistically a sink and some power. You don't need propane tanks and ventilation hoods and all that other stuff that most jurisdictions will not allow. So as it stands right now, all the big boys right now are doing 100-pound propane tanks. Probably just for a test right now. One has a small 20-pounder. Looks like I might be doing 2 tandems there on this guy. Let's take a look at this guy. I mean, their videos are looking cool, but I think these guys might be not understanding the propane side of things. Because the biggest thing why is because I can see without even having to do anything. Oh wait, no, that actually might be, no, that looks like a correct regulator. Can I get a better picture? Because I have to make a video on regulators eventually. Oh, anyways, since I just got you here. Oh, bitches. You want to go with Emerson. What the fuck? What the hell? Well, I guess that's the end of the video. Have a good one.